FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
We've been giving you the latest developments on this massive concealed carry scandal in the state of Missouri, which has made national headlines and has caused authorities and elected officials in other states to now examine whether or not the same thing could be taking place. You will remember how a number of different heads under Jay Nixon, the head of the Department of Revenue, Missouri Highway Patrol, so on and so forth, admitted that they twice shared Missouri's full concealed carry list with the federal government. Apparently, it was a request as part of an investigation that magically was just dropped the moment after the feds got the concealed carry list. And as a result of this scandal, the head of the Missouri Department of Revenue has resigned their position. Joining me right now for even more news on this scandal, Missouri State Senator Kurt Schaefer, who has been leading the charge on this and held hearings on this just a few days ago. He's also going to be holding hearings across the state of Missouri to get public input. Senator, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Dana. How are you?
I'm good. This story, though, has a lot of folks, including myself, on edge. What are the latest developments? I understand that now that they're going to stop scanning and retaining concealed carry documents, but there's more to this story.
There's a lot more to this story. And first of all, I want to thank you because you've really been at the lead on this story and letting people know what's going on. And that's why I wanted to give you a call today, and thanks for getting me on, because as you know, and we talked last week, it came out in our hearing last week that entire list of concealed carry holders was given by the Department of Revenue and the Highway Patrol to what was apparently the Department of Social Security for a Social Security investigation. But going through documents that have been produced in response to this investigation, we learned today.
Let's try to reestablish this call. Right there at the beginning of it. We'll try to get him back on the line, hopefully get a better connection. Missouri State Senator Kurt Schaefer. No, you heard him mention it began as a Social Security investigation. They wouldn't elaborate as to what it was, but then they ended up just dropping the case magically. It went away as soon as they got their list. We have him back on the line. Senator, there you are.
So what we found out was that this actual request for the entire list of concealed carry holders in the state of Missouri was a joint request between Social Security and the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Administration of the federal government.
Wow. The ATF and the Social Security. Now, how would the ATF be involved? This began as a Social Security investigation. What purpose would the ATF have in this?
Well, they wouldn't have any in that, I don't think. And what we found out was that actually before the Department of Revenue produced this information, they knew that this was a request from both Social Security and the ATF, and yet they still produced that.
Wow.
And so this is a list of gun owners in the state of Missouri being supplied directly by the state to the ATF.
And this
is a list of gun owners being given by the state of Missouri to the federal government. Now, we specifically were told that this wasn't done, and then when we found out after extensive research and questioning that it was given to Social Security, it was minimized by saying, well, this was Social Security. But what we found out today was it actually was a joint request by Social Security and the ATF. This is absolutely unbelievable.
Now, the ATF didn't come up in the hearing that took place last week. This didn't come up in that hearing. I didn't hear that.
No, it didn't. We were never told that the ATF was part of this request. We just found this out today in some documents that we're going through as part of this investigation. We also found out that this information, when it was sent through the mail and the disc, with the discs, those discs apparently were not encrypted as they told us. It was simply an Excel file with a password, and the actual password was on the letter with the discs in the mail.
Wow. Oh, goodness. So this is, that's even worse than we had thought. Just absolute complete recklessness. So we don't even, this just, I'm actually for once speechless because this, who knows, A, who has all this information, and B, the ATF being involved. Now, have you heard anything from the ATF? I'm immediately suspicious because this is the same department that was involved in Fast and Furious.
Right, that's exactly right. And why on earth does the ATF need a list of Missouri gun owners other than to simply create a list of Missouri gun owners? This is a direct assault on our Second Amendment rights. This is why I filed Senate Joint Resolution 14, which requires elected officials in Missouri to uphold those Second Amendment rights and make sure that we're not giving up this kind of information to the federal government so they can have a gun list. This isn't even a backdoor list. This is a front door list. This is the ATF apparently requesting from the Department of Revenue the entire list that they have of concealed carry holders in the state of Missouri. This is so far beyond what is even reasonable. I cannot believe that this came up today, that we found this out.
And what would the ATF even do with this list? This is registration, is what this is. They essentially
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, everyone who is on that concealed carry list, everybody knows what we have. That it's backdoor registration.
Right, and the other thing too is we were told that this list was made available to the feds twice. It now looks like they may have made it available a third time in February. We're still running that down, too. But apparently it may be 3 times that they gave this list.
And all of this was from Sunshine Request. All of this was from you were able to get all of this information from the documents that you subpoenaed.
That's correct. These are from internal documents. And they clearly show that based on the date in January, that before the information was produced, they knew that it was a request by Social Security and the ATF. And so the specific request is for the entire list of all concealed carry holders in the state of Missouri. That's the request in writing that we can see from these emails.
Have the ATF, and so it seems like a interesting partnership. Have they ever worked together on anything before, ever?
Well, I don't know, but while they may have worked on individual investigations, the issue of profiling by getting the entire list of concealed carry holders, giving it to the federal government, to the ATF, I have never heard of anything even remotely close to this.
No, yeah, nor have I. And apparently it was made, the request initially, as you were told in the hearing, was from the Social Security Department. They said it was because of an investigation that magically went away when they got the list. And then you later hear or read from these documents that the ATF was involved. Did you get the sense even then during the hearings that some of these department heads were not wanting to be incredibly forthcoming with some of this information now you see as a result of this?
Well, after being told numerous times that the list was never given to the federal government, just in that one hearing alone, it took us almost 2 hours of questioning to get that answer. This shows, at a minimum, in protecting Missourians' privacy and private information, there is at a minimum a level of gross negligence by bureaucrats who are supposed to, by law, be protecting this information. But on top of that, there appears to be a desire to be complicit with compiling a list of Missouri concealed carry holders and giving it to the federal government.
Now, this head of the Missouri Department of Revenue that resigned the post, obviously it's directly related to this scandal.
Well, remember, some of these things were put in place after he came in just a couple months ago, but most of this was put in motion before he even came in. When we asked him last week in the hearing, why don't you just stop gathering this data and sharing it until we can get to the bottom of this? And his statement to me last week was, I'm not prepared to make that commitment at this time. Well, look, there's a level of culpability there for continuing down this road that they never should have started down. But on top of that, he probably is the least culpable person in this whole equation so far. So I think there are multiple people at this point there are many of us in the General Assembly who no longer have any confidence in their ability to follow state law and to carry out their duties to the public.
And as a reminder to the public, this request, considering Missouri law prohibits the sharing of concealed carry information, it is private information, it could safely be classified as this is an illegal request considering Missouri law. Did we lose him again? Oh, goodness. Well, the press conference, we just lost him again. The press conference, see if we can get him back and we'll take a quick break. But the press conference is expected here in the next 15 minutes. We're going to take a quick break and see if we can get Senator Schaefer back on the line. Don't go anywhere. More of the Dana Show in moments. We're back with Missouri State Senator Kurt Schaefer. They're having a press conference here in just about 10 minutes. Right before we lost him, or we had a little bit of breakup, we were talking about how these documents, the Senator Schaefer has uncovered that the ATF was the other federal entity that was making requests for Missouri's concealed carry list. And Senator, I'd asked, I think before we had some connection difficulties, knowing that Missouri state law prohibits the sharing of this concealed carry information, is it fair to classify the ATF's request as illegal?
Well, I think what they're going to say is this is some law enforcement purpose. But, we created under state law the ability for law enforcement, for example, on individual investigations. But they don't have access to it en masse to do profiling like this. I do believe that's a violation of law, which is why they went to Revenue and had to request it in that format. But I tell you, the really interesting thing about this, it shows there is a magical database. Taxpayers paid for it. The state created it. And then we gave the keys to the feds. And this is absolutely unacceptable.
Oh, wow. And the press conference coming up just shortly, are you going to get into what action is going to be taken at this point? Because what can you do at this point now that the ATF is involved?
Well, I think, again, just as we are going to have Social Security come before us and tell us why they wanted this information, we now have people who told us previously that this didn't happen. Then when we found out about it, they said, yeah, it was on Social Security. Well, now it's ATF. So I think we need to hear from ATF as well. You know, the one thing I think I told you the other day on your program was the only constant in this entire investigation is that things that people tell you are true one day turn out to not be true the next day. And again, that's certainly, it's Tuesday, so I guess it's like any other day. That's what we find out now. So we will follow through with that. I think the bigger question is, how on earth does anyone in this administration think it's acceptable to create that database and give it to Social Security and the ATF? It's for no other reason than profiling. The other thing, too, it shows to me that this was clearly not part of any criminal investigation. Otherwise, as you said, they wouldn't have destroyed the disks. You don't destroy evidence in a criminal investigation.
Yes. Is there any reason to suspect that the ATF has made these requests to other other departments in other states?
Well, the one thing that's learning is I think in Missouri we're at the forefront of this, and I think that a lot of these other states that have been doing, I think, if from a bureaucratic perspective, what Missouri's been doing, which is telling their legislature, for example, that they're not complying with the new requirements of the federal government to get more personal information from their citizens, yet that's really what they're doing. I think we're starting to see other states now go back and look because they were never told as well. And so hopefully this gets the word out, and I know that you're doing a great job on your show to tell the public that this is happening, and this is private information by law, and the government has no right to it in this format to do profiling like they're doing.
Well, we so appreciate you staying on this issue because this is a massive breach of privacy. It's an assault on the Second Amendment. And this is scary when you have state law in place and you have people who are appointed by an elected official to be the safeguard of these rights, and they refuse to do their job. And of course, we've seen as well, different department heads contradict Governor Jay Nixon. He said just Wednesday of last week that there, as you quoted, there exists no magical database. And then you have the head of the Missouri Highway Department completely contradict him. I don't think that there's any other option for Governor Nixon right now except to come out and say, yeah, this exists and I need to do something about it. Any response from Koster?
I haven't heard anything from the Attorney General, but you raise a really good point, and that is, you know, who is the gatekeeper on what by law in the state of Missouri is private information? It's clearly not the governor. It's clearly not anyone at the Department of Revenue who's tasked with keeping this information private. So we are going to make sure that when people give up their private information, be that concealed carry information or all the new information, their marriage license, their mortgage documents that they're being asked to bring into the Department of Revenue to get a license, that first of all, that Revenue does not keep that data, and the data they do have is maintained in a private, personal way as we always intended by law.
Wow. Well, like I said, we so appreciate your attention to this. And please keep us informed with all of these latest developments on this. This is a massive concern for Missourians, and it should be for folks in other states as well, because as you said, you know, these other states are starting to go back and look. We just simply don't know. Now, the press conference happening in a few minutes. Senator, we so appreciate your time on this, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dan. I look forward to keeping you informed on what's going on.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it.